battery, so
Oh no.
that won't work. Okay, I think we're live. It's beautiful. It's July 29th, just before the August long weekend. I've got Chris and I've got Sandy coming back again here. It's going to be a little bit more of an impromptu kind of informal show tonight. We're going to basically scroll through the recent questions on the Facebook group and kind of do some brainstorming as a group to get you guys some answers, and that's kind of what the discussion points are going to be around. Thanks for your patience. I just lost my internet. I just got back up. I'm actually hotspotting off my cell phone. I'm out in Vermeer, Windermere, Radium Hot Springs area, and my phone just started to overheat. So it's in a cooler, kind of cooling off, and hopefully that works. And I'm glad it's waterproof. But yeah, so without further ado, I've got Chris in my top right corner. I've got Sandy down below. Sandy, thanks for joining us once again. I'm a little out of breath from running here. Does anyone want to grab a first question? How do you guys want to start off the show here?
Well, I think we are. I think we're just going to. Well, we'll go down. You know what I wanted to do tonight, MacKenzie? See what you think of this, and Sandy. I think we should just go through the Facebook page and see what kind of discussions are up. What's interesting? What's the buzz on the page? And that'll lead to other discussions. And people, when they throw their questions up, we'll jump to their questions and go from there.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Okay, I'm seeing people saying that they can't see anything yet. I'm just going to double check it. Can you see us? Okay.
I'm able to see it. I have my iPad going so I can watch questions, and I'm able to see us on my iPad. So we have to be working. So.
Okay, perfect. Okay, cool. Oh, someone just posted a link too as well. So awesome. Okay, well, where do you want to start with? You know what, I got a question. I'll start with my own situation here, and I'll get you guys some feedback. I'm pretty sure I think I know what I'm going to do, but I think it'll be a good discussion anyways. So I had a new tenant move in on July 1st, and I had issues with my shower. I found out when I had it pulled apart that there's a leak in behind the wall. So I had to redo the shower enclosure wall, redo all the 3 walls. So I had a trades guy lined up, and she also said that I could have access completely up to the 12th because that's when her internet was getting installed and she works from home. So she wasn't even in the property at that point for the first 12 days. So I had my trade guy go out. Unfortunately, he wasn't the very best. He took quite a bit longer. And she actually got a working bathroom on the 19th. So she's asking for a compensation. So what do you guys think I should do?
What kind of compensation is she asking for?
She didn't say. She just said, you know, I didn't get a working shower until July 19th. What do you think? You know, would you consider some sort of compensation? And I said absolutely. I'll look into it. I haven't done a welcome. I'm usually pretty good at this, but this year's been a little bit lazier. I haven't done a welcome gift. So normally I usually do a little card with a gift card to a local restaurant is usually what I do. So I haven't done that yet either. But since she's asking for a discount now, I'm just like, well, I had permission from her to come and go because she wasn't living in the unit up to the 12th. So I had those first 12 days to do the work. And so that I think was already agreed upon. I wouldn't be compensated for that. But then from the 12th to the 19th, which is basically 7 days or 1/4 of the month, she was without a shower. So should I?
Does she have a bathtub?
Yep. She did have a bathtub, yeah.
She had a bathtub, and it was 6 additional days over and above what you thought it might be. Did you ask her what she wants? Maybe that's always a good place to start, is to say when somebody asks for compensation, because you know, when they ask for something, if they ask for the world, then you're like, well, okay, that's not possible. But if they ask for something really small,
then no problem, right?
Yeah, problem solved. Do you know what you want?
What's that? There's a book of negotiation, and it's always if you make the first move, right, you can kind of set the stage, and then they have to. That kind of sets what's reasonable. And they go way below, then it's kind of tougher to do that. But then it works vice versa. She could come in really low and be like, "Oh, you only want a $20 gift card? Done," right? So, I mean, like normally my welcome gift for a new tenant is a $100 gift card to a restaurant. They can go out for a couple's meal, or she go with some friends, or they can, depending on who it is. So I'm already prepared to spend $100. And then she's basically had a week without a, well, and I should clarify, the shower head got reinstalled on the 19th, but the faucet below was installed probably 3 days or 4 days earlier. So I guess
So what
beyond
about if you were to ask her what she's thinking of, or say, you know what, this is a crummy way to start, because of course this is not the way that you wanted to start, and this wasn't your plan either.
No.
And that's not the way that you'd like to start your new relationships, and you understand that it's an inconvenience. However, repairs happen on properties, and what she can be assured of is that you're going to take care of it, just like you did. So hopefully she feels assured that, okay, something went wrong and I took care of it. Wasn't as fast as I liked, but I didn't drag my heels on getting started on it. What about $100 gift certificate for any restaurant that you choose? Would that work for you?
Perfect. I'll go with that. I'll set the ground at $100 and I'll see how she responds. Perfect. I love it. That's great. That's great feedback.
Good luck.
Cool.
You know what? You both are very kind. I'm struggling with this one.
Okay. What would you do, Chris?
I don't know. I would be a little put out, to be honest with you. I'm quite annoyed actually to hear that somebody wants something because they're taking an opportunity for something that goes sideways. You had a tub, you had things. Life isn't perfect. And, I guess I say, well, what do you think I would ask them to say, well, what do you think you're entitled to? Like, because it's frustrating me. Maybe that's not a great choice of words, but I'm a little more sometimes to the point, at a fault. And they had a tub, they had the ability to shower, they had the ability to clean themselves. When you take your car to the shop, you just bought it from Ford, you take it back to the dealership, and I'm sorry, we don't have any loaners right now. What do you want? What do you want?
Yeah. To be fair, and that's true. And that's kind of where I'm struggling too. Is like I've been really good with communication, and as soon as she said something's wrong, within 24 hours that tub was getting ripped apart. So, I guess I should clarify, the faucet handles and the faucet itself was well removed, so there wasn't really an ability for her to turn on the water in the tub. So, but she was also co-living, because, and this is the other thing I kind of struggle with too, is she works remotely right now, so she needs internet, and her old place is in the same community, like a 5-minute drive, if that, away, and so she was going there to run her internet and her business. She could also shower there as well. So I don't know how much she's really out, but yeah, but I'm a relationship kind of guy. I kind of want to, like, I'm always big on, because there's going to be times where I'll have to call on her, maybe short notice for a favor or something, to make something work, to save money, or if I'm bringing in a trade, or, I like having that ability, like that kind of communication. So, and I usually do a welcome gift. So maybe
I understand Chris's point. Maybe you can combine the two ideas and say, hey, listen, like, this is not normally how I'd like to start out, but I'm willing to give you this $100 gift certificate, but I also want to set the stage here that if there's further issues in the property, you can be guaranteed that I'm going to take care of it, because that's my job. But if your toilet goes or something else breaks and I need to fix it, I'm not prepared to compensate. I need to do a repair. My promise to you is I'll keep things in good repair. And I'll respond to your maintenance request when something is needed. So maybe you can combine the two ideas, because Chris
I like that. Like, kind of puts a caveat, because I don't want to set precedents or open up the expectation I'm going to compensate you every time there's a repair, because that is not how I run my business.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, the great thing about buying a gift certificate, at least you can write it off as your income.
That's right. Actually, I got a good tip on that too. When I take out investors for investor meetings to get them financials, if you go out for meals, you can deduct only 50% of that expense. However, if you buy a gift certificate for the restaurant that you're going to go have your business meeting at, you can write off the full charge of that gift certificate and then use it for the investor meal. So there's
it.
Boom. How do you like that?
Oh, perfect. So is that the same thing? Like, if I go out to coffee at Starbucks, even if it's like a $20 bill, I can only write off $10? Or is it just meals?
I think it's under meals and entertainment, but I'm not 100% sure on that. That's a good question that I don't have the answer to.
We need Diana here.
Yeah, our last show. Good to know. Though. I didn't even know that. I love that. I'm gonna be employing that on my next outing. That's perfect. Cool.
As long as you're not embarrassed by saying, "I'd like to first buy $100 ticket, and now I'd like to use it."
or buy in advance. Like, so guys, mind if I pay in gift card? Totally. Cool. All right. Well, let's start shooting through some questions on the Facebook. Does any of you two got one lined up right now?
Well, I'm going to talk about the one that I'm just dealing with right firsthand while you guys are looking through the questions there, if you are.
Perfect.
Is we had one lady searching to the group to answer some questions regarding, or to get some help regarding a rental. So her scenario is this, is that she is becoming a landlord by just because accidental landlord. And she needs to move her child to a place where she can get to school, because where she's living, there's going to be school. So she has the family connections to get her child somewhere, and she can still work from where she's going to. So what she needs to do now is rent her house out to get where she's going to be. The person is going to save the house for her because they want her. And now she's got to get her place out. So she gets a tenant to apply. Turns out it is a divorce situation wherein the traditional, where the man is the breadwinner, he's not in this case. The wife is, huge income. The husband is a stay-at-home dad with a part-time job.
Okay.
And she's worried, and this is where sometimes we overthink business instead of kind of looking at options on how to make it work. So she's going to the group and asking, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Well, if this happens, and then what's happening is the group, we're getting bombarded with all different answers, and it's just snowballing to a point where I almost felt reading it, I must get a hold of this lady and ask her to talk to me privately. So I got her on the phone and started talking to her, and I got the rest of her story, because the written word doesn't always tell the whole story. So the short of it is, the man wants the place, and it's a nice place, and he wants this. They're splitting. The husband and wife are splitting. The wife is actually a doctor. Apparently makes $30,000 to $35,000 a month.
Okay.
Great income. But then there's the whole, well, is he going to get spousal? Is he going to get child support? Is he going to get all these things? But yet the wife is willing to guarantee the rental place.
So she's going to co-sign?
Yeah. So it becomes simple. When I get talking to her, I said, so this is really simple. And I'd be all over this one. You have a doctor making $30,000+ a month, and their expenses aren't terrible. And it's a no-brainer. And they went from, well, I don't know about a 12-month lease to maybe a 6-month lease, and it's back and forth. And then they're going to give them a discount if they do this, and it's at a premium if they do that. And I go, finally, the guy says, okay, I'll take the 12-month. So boom, I told her, I said, be all over it then. Your doctor is not going to jeopardize her credit. She's not going to jeopardize complaints to the AMA, Medical Association, all that stuff. So
and she'll be so busy too. If she'll just be like, is this a $500 deal? Fine, here's $500. I'm a doctor then, and they work crazy hours. She'll just, with that kind of money, she's gonna just say she'll use the money as a tool to buy back her time. So she's not gonna.
Chris, you mentioned that a doctor is concerned about their credit. I think if the landlord pulls credit on both the co-signer and the husband, and they both have good credit, then that gives her a lot of confidence that they have the ability to pay, and they have the track record that they care about their credit and they pay their bills. If you pull the credit and the credit was really horrible, not likely, but it could be, right? Just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you have good credit. If you pull the credit and the credit's horrible, then maybe she has something to be worried about. But if she has a co-signer who's strong, and a mother who probably cares about the kid living in the house and wants to make sure they have a roof over their head, wow, done deal.
Yeah. So at the end, she also got overthinking it, and well, I don't want to be involved in their conflict. I don't want this. I don't want that. I go, stop.
You're just a house provider.
Stop. You're providing. You're a business person. We have to remember that. I'm going to tell everybody who's listening here, you must run your business. Stop being a counselor. Stop being a friend. All that. You are a business runner. And what you do is you sit them down and say, if you're worried about that, your statement is this: I am not getting involved in any drama that happens with you. The bill's due on the 1st. That's my expectation. If it's not, then we will be dealing with that accordingly. simple. It was like, you could almost hear the relief in it. She goes, that makes so much sense. And I said, you know, you're overthinking this, because the questions on the page continue to snowball, and you can see the frustrations in the answers.
So and can I kind of add on that too, just on that mental note? I mean, my position of all my properties, because the more viewings you do, you're going to get the sob stories guaranteed, right? People are trying to look after their own needs, and I really look at the end of the day, am I going to look after someone's needs? I just met them for 10 minutes, and they give me the saddest story that they need help, or this investment is for my family, my 2 kids, and my wife, and I go, who do I want to help first, my kids or this person I just met 10 minutes ago? And when I look at it that way, it's a bit of a refresh, and it says, you know what, it's always going to be my kids. If I had to make a decision, and then I make a decision that safeguards the investment for them, and makes it easier to think that way, as opposed to getting tangled in someone's story that you just met 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And related to that too, so same thing. And for me, it's the same thing. I'm doing this to make a living for my family and create stability for the future. But I'm also working with investors, so I have a huge fiduciary responsibility to take care of their investment and their retirement savings. But the other thing I do, so that I don't have that bad feeling like, oh, I'm a bad person because I'm being a hard ass landlord, is I choose to give to a charity that's related to our industry. And then I say to myself, I'm choosing to give money to them. And that's charity. That feels good. When you have a tenant who's in a really bad way, and now you feel like you have forced charity, or you're being guilted into charity, that doesn't feel good. So be generous and give money when you decide to give money, and give money to causes that help in your industry, and run your business like a business, like Chris said.
Yeah. All right. Question out to Shelley. You're going to get the next one. I'm going down through our page. Here it is. Advice needed. Would you rent to someone on social assistance? If yes, would you request a co-signer?
Okay. So my name's Sandy.
What did I say, Shelley?
Yeah, it's okay.
I did that before. I'm so sorry.
This year, then that's okay. We're both crazy redheads, but
that's one drink, Chris. We're gonna start. I got a tally going here for you.
Sandy. Okay.
No worries. It starts with S, so that's close. All my siblings started with S. So when my mom got angry, I hope you're not angry with me, Chris, but when my mom got angry, she called me one of my siblings' names because we all started with S. So anyway, so would you rent something on social assistance? Well, and this is related to the hard ass line question. So I have on occasion, and more often than not, I've been burned. So that goes back to me giving charitably in our industry, so that I am doing my part about being a good human. But I also need to be a good business owner and a good investment partner, and make the best choice for the property. So if I'm renting to someone, I'm looking for stability. So do I know they're going to be able to pay the rent all the time? And I'm looking for, do they have stability? Also means, do they have ties in the neighborhood, right? Have they been at their last place for a long time? Have they been at their job for a long time? If being on social assistance, when I look at their application, shows me that I don't have confidence that they have stability, that they're going to be able to pay the rent, that they're going to stay put for a long period of time, that they're going to take care of the house, then no.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I mean, you know, to look at your position, right? If you're a small landlord and you've got 1 to 3 doors, or you're at in that point, you can't take a hit if something goes awry. I mean, you gotta look at the worst possible outcome. You don't get rent for 3 months. Property could be damaged. How much are you going to be in the hole? Do you have the cash reserves to float that kind of risk? And most small landlords don't. There's like you said, Sandy, there's charities out there. There's other organizations that are actually meant to service these people that are in need. And like you said, I think I like Sandy's tip, where you choose to donate to an organization that fulfills that need. It helps with the affordable housing need out there, and it doesn't have to be you directly, because again, you know, you've gotten into this business. Well, some of you guys are accidental, but the rest of us, you know, we've chosen to. This is part of our investment future, and you really got to protect that. And you got to be able to sleep at night too, knowing they've got someone in there that can cover the bills. Because if you don't, it's going to wreak havoc on your mental and your personal life, and it just it kind of starts to overshadow everything you do on a daily basis, and you don't want to run the business that way.
One of my questions on our telephone screening, so like the first time we're screening tenants before we meet them in person, is we let them know as soon as your application is approved, you'll need to pay your full first month's rent, and security deposit is paid in full before keys are released. Do you foresee any issues with this? And if their answer is anything other than no problem, they don't get to see the property. So if they're like, well, I need to pay my security deposit in 2 installments, or I'm not quite sure, I won't be ready to pay the rent until 3 weeks down the road, then it's a no-go. So if they cannot figure out a tenant in my mind is not stable if they have not saved up enough to pay the first month's rent and security deposit up front. So they're too close to the line, and as soon as something happens like a pandemic, then they're not going to be able to pay their rent and they're in big trouble.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
I'm going to add in a little bit more. And it comes to the screening process. The one thing you want to ask yourself when you're having somebody that's on social assistance or AISH or something like that, why are they moving? What's the purpose of the move? Well, I just needed a better place. That to me is a flag right away, because these people on these fixed income, the clients on these fixed incomes need to have stability. They need to have things in place. So if they're moving, if they're bettering themselves and it makes sense, then yes. So you need to do your due diligence and dig a little deeper as to, okay, why are they moving? And you know what? You know what I've done? I've gone right over and knocked on their door, impromptu. They go, oh, can I help you? Oh yeah, no, I just stopped by and say hi, just see how you're going. I just want to talk to you a little more about the application. Hope you didn't mind. If they mind, if they mind and they lose their mind, yeah, that's another flag, right? And you also want to see how they're living. Is the place full of cats and dogs? Is it a clutter? There's a difference between a cluttered, messy house and organized chaos, in my view. So the other thing is, what if you do take a client on, let's say it's AISH, are you aware as a landlord that there's actually a little form that you can get signed where AISH will pay you directly? There's a caution with that, and that is they can stop that at any time without you knowing. So
who's that? The client or the government?
The client. So all the client has to do is pick the phone up and say, yeah, okay, stop paying. You can send the check to me. So be aware when the check is supposed to come. It will come with regularity, and it will come in the mail. And if it's not there within a day or two, you need to start asking why and checking on it. And if you get that, well, I'm not sure, it should, right away, you know things are going on. So
one last comment, Mike. You said, I think the question had something to do with, should I get a co-signer? I made a mistake in my very first rental property. It happened to also be when I was 8 months pregnant, so it was really super stressful. I had a co-signer on an application because I didn't think the application was really strong. And things went to pot. Literally, I guess. The guy got into drugs, had a rage, and trashed my place. And I learned then, and I was like, okay, that was dumb. I had the co-signer because I didn't think the application was strong. Now, in my opinion, co-signers are for if someone doesn't have credit because they're new to the country, or they're young and they don't have credit, or maybe this is their first rental property, but all their other references and their background looks strong, but they just don't have a history built in either credit or landlord history. Then that's when I would consider a co-signer. If it's a co-signer to try to make an application stronger because you feel a little queasy about the applicants, then that's a no-go for me now. I learned the hard way.
Yeah, great tips. I totally agree with that.
You want to pop those questions up, MacKenzie? There's one from Yasana. She just put a question up. It says, is there a window? If you can see that one. There you go. Is there a window in the house without a screen? Are you required to provide one, like a basement window or a bedroom window?
I am 90% sure that screens and windows are part of the Minimum Housing Standards Act in Alberta. Do either of you guys know that? I'm pretty sure you have to have screens and windows because one of our responsibilities is to keep pests and insects and vermin out of houses, and you can't do that with no screen.
So I actually had this question. I actually had one of my tenants do this. So I had in my one rental property, it's got a bay window on the front, and on the two sides are windows that opened up with screens. yeah, I didn't have screens in those windows because they reframed it and they changed the dimensions and whatnot. So I went and I had that same question. She says like, well, I can't open the windows and it's hot in here. The funny thing is I used to live in this house and I was just, I'm gonna call it thrifty. We didn't get the screens put in quite yet. So I was kind of like, well, it's not that bad because I've lived there. But to Sandy's point, windows and fire exits and doors and heat and a roof over your head to keep you all the elements is a necessity. So I would view it the same way. The only exception I might make if it's in my situation where there's two windows side by side, like 2 feet apart, and one already has a screen, the other one doesn't, then I'd be like, you know what, you've got a window 2 feet away, use that one. When I can do, or when I can put the repairs, or when the budget allows me, I'll replace that screen, but it's just not in the cards right now. I would make the exception if you have two close by windows to each other.
I will also add in there that to put a screen in a window, take the measurements down to the glass shop, have it made, write it off. It's not hard to do. If this is a window that doesn't fit a screen, then because it's just to me, they all should with today, but if not, you have to do something. These screens are not hard to, they're not hard to build. If you have a friend who's a little bit mechanically inclined, this is probably a beer and a half.
Yeah, $80 at home hardware. You'll have enough supplies to make 3 screens.
I think someone just posted a comment that clears it all up. Minimum housing standard. Yes, it says you need a screen. That's one agency that I would really highly suggest not messing around with. Minimum housing standards, they have an awful lot of authority to make your life really a living hell. So meet those minimum health standards. It's our obligation and responsibility as landlords, and they've got a lot of power.
Yeah, the flip side, right? It's an $80, $100 repair, and it's like you said, if you get mixed with this agency and they start telling you to do a bunch of different things to your property, is it worth taking that risk to? Or Alberta Health Services too? If they come in and then all of a sudden they start picking apart your property, you're gonna really wish you did that $100 repair instead of what you're dealing with at that point.
I'm gonna tell you that if people are calling and reporting you for stuff, and you're running a good tight ship and everything's good, they're going to be seen as a frivolous complaint, and their credibility is gone quickly. And especially if you have a tiny slip on something, but everything else is golden, and they see that, they're going to go, you know what? Okay, yeah, can you just take care of that? Yes, I can. Great, you're in the good books. They see the renter, a client, for what they are. So run a good show. Once you're at a standard, it's easy to keep it. If you slip and try to get back up, that's where your struggles are, and you start looking at your pocketbook. So.
Yeah. Okay. And thanks for the share there. Just threw up that exact wording. Perfect.
There's the one that says, how do you process? That's from FSC Stone. So.
Okay. Yeah. How do you process the applicant? Do you take the initial deposit before you process the application? Oh, there's a lot of ways to do this. Sandy, do you want to I'll let you take this and run with this, and I'll fill in my points as well.
Sure. Okay. So yes, we do. And maybe I should preface that sometimes it changes depending on what's happening in the market. So if I'm struggling or the market's really hard, then maybe I might not. But almost always, yes, I do. I use an offer to lease. It's a form put out by the Calgary Residential Rental Association. The way I explained it to tenants is it's a pre-lease. Doesn't obligate them to anything. It's an information document. We fill that out so that they know how much is the rent, what's the term of the lease, what are the utilities, that sort of thing. It says right in there that you're taking an application deposit, and how I explain it is there's three parts. If your application is accepted, it goes towards your first month's rent, and then the rest of your first month's rent is due right after we accept your application. And I usually make a stupid joke and say, if I find out you're a crazy axe murderer, then I'm going to and I deny your application, I'm going to give you your full deposit back. You'll get 100% of it back, and I will wish you all the best. So if the application is not approved, you get the deposit back. And then I say the only way that you put this money on the line is if you put your deposit down, we go through all the work to process your application, we welcome you on as our new tenant, and we reserve the suite for you, and then you decide, well, I've changed my mind. So I tell them, if you flake out and change your mind, then you lose the deposit. So that's what I do.
Love it, yeah.
Yeah.
Chris, how do you do this?
I'm good. You know what? I was reading other questions and just relying.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It's not that I'm not paying attention. I'm trying to jump ahead.
Yeah, by the way, thank you for doing that. It's hard. That's why I'm appreciating you doing it. No problem. I totally agree with Sandy in the sense that it depends on the market. I would say right now, from what I've seen personally, you can be taking deposits. I've even been offloading my credit checking fees to my tenants. So, yeah, basically, I don't charge at this point in time. I don't charge the application deposit, but if I go and sorry, let me restart this again. I don't charge a fee for the application, but I do outsource the cost to do the credit check, which is 20 or 25 bucks depending on how it gets done. Very nominal fee. I will reimburse in the first month's rent if I do pick the person. And on top of that, they don't get possession or anything, as we've already mentioned in the show, until the first month's rent and damage deposit is paid. At the signing of the lease, I require first month's rent, and then the damage deposit can be paid anywhere between the signing up to the day of the move-in.
Okay.
So a little bit different, but kind of the same thing. Yeah. So.
I also go back to some of these background checks and stuff. You know what, MacKenzie, I'm going to jump right in and I'm going to plug SingleKey,
Sure.
Our partner for the page. And we had one lady, actually a lady I was talking to regarding the doctor and the husband and wife situation. She used SingleKey tonight. And she was like, wow, like how fast that was, how good it was. And it was easy, where she just gave the information, it was filled in, and she was notified that they accepted it. That the client accepted it, had opened the email. She knew what was going on. She was notified. So an amazing little process, and hats off to for them for finding us and joining with us, and that we can help everybody get a great discount on that.
So I got a little exciting kind of tidbit on that. So I met with Viller, it might have been 3 weeks ago now, and I had probably an hour and a half discussion, and I gave him a ton of feedback on comments I saw in the Facebook group on what you guys were saying and what you liked and you didn't like. I know a lot of you guys said you liked Neighborly because of some of the documentation that gets included in their credit report. I've made very detailed notes, and actually that's the information I relayed on to Viller. So they're busy right now. I think I'm going to call it the next month here, they're revamping their report completely, and they're adding more value to it. So I believe they're going to be adding, again, this is rumor as it right now. I don't have the official word yet, but it's things we had talked about. They're going to add in photo ID. They're going to add in pay stubs, letter of employment. They're also going to add in verbiage right on the application that gives you permission in the future to run checks or do reference checks with previous landlords or rental companies, because you'll definitely need it with a property management company. They typically do not give up information until they see something in writing that you have permission to pull that background check. So these are some additional features we're throwing into already a pretty powerful report, because you basically get a 6-page credit report on a person on every piece of credit or financial product they've ever had. So it's a very powerful tool.
Great value add.
I also find out that I got to get this right, MacKenzie, I know you'll be able to help me. You get money back if an application isn't approved or something like that. What's that? How's that work?
So they have a second product called a rent guarantee.
No. There was something. It was, this lady told me this. I read it, but I can't find it. I think if a client applies and doesn't get it, they get their money back, or there's some money to come back. That's something you need to check on what they're. I haven't had to using it because I'm full, but
yeah, I'm not sure. I definitely know that some of the people that have used it on the Facebook group have gotten refunds because they had trouble with the process. Like one gal, she had a rural address and it didn't properly search, so they actually ran the process manually for her. But you know what? If you guys have any trouble in the process, they're super responsive. Great customer service. They manage all the questions themselves. They do have a bit of an autoresponder for the very basic frequently asked questions. But you go beyond that, you get someone in the core team, and they're very nimble, responsive startup company. And yeah, I mean, power to them. So if you got questions, definitely ask them.
Cool. What else we got?
I'll throw one up here. I saw Wayne Hiller. He is a known investor up in Edmonton, part of the Rain community, and I consider him very well experienced, and he had this issue. So he goes, what's the course of action if a tenant is sent to jail? I'm attempting to help some tenants with a roommate issue. One of the roommates may be going to jail. In the event that she does, what options do I have to remove her from the lease so that they can find a suitable roommate replacement? They're going to have trouble covering the whole rent if the roommate is incarcerated. So how would you manage the situation? You've got, say, 3 roommates. One's going off to jail, or is possibly being charged, and they're no longer in the property.
Do we know if the roommate going to jail is willing to come off the lease?
I don't see that in the comments. Let me just kind of keep going through. Give me some what ifs as I do some research here.
Here's my thing is, don't be afraid of jail. I have 25 years of policing, and I've been in there. And prior to that, I was in the credit industry. Go down to the jail and visit them if they're there. Go in and ask them what they want to do. Take a piece of paper with you and have them sign it that they no longer want to, and they forfeit their damage deposit. Have make arrangements with, ask them who they can arrange, or you can contact family to come pick their stuff up, move them on, and get somebody else in there. It's just life. Unfortunately, they're living on the dark side. But open the doors of communications. Don't be scared just because the word jail came up. They made a bad choice. They're going to be sober and they're not going to be high. Go in there, sit behind the glass, and talk on the telephone and ask them what can be done. And be progressive and responsive to your situation so that you can manage your property properly.
Yeah, it's an easy amendment, right, Chris? Just to remove a name from a lease. If all the leaseholders sign it, then that person's off the lease.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. If I had a suite where the tenant was in jail and they wouldn't sign to come off the lease, and we knew they were going to be in there for a while.
Well, he can't pay rent, right? So give it 1 month and he's already in default.
Yeah, but then the whole lease in default. You got to.
Yeah.
Everybody. That's the hard part, right?
Oh, you couldn't. So right. So you got three tenants at play. One's going to jail, and so one becomes in default. Well, I guess the other two would still be responsible for paying rent. So if rent is missed, then all 3 are at default. Okay. Yeah. You can't piecemeal it, eh?
Here's one idea. What about, so if dude in jail or dudette won't come off the lease, doesn't want to come off the lease and is refusing to sign anything. All right. So then you end up, if you talk with the other 2 and you want to keep the other 2 are fine, then you end up evicting them because of non-payment of rent, because the guy in jail, if he doesn't pay his rent, and then re-sign a new lease with the 2 remaining. That could be a possibility if you just give them a 14-day eviction, so it doesn't go on the record, it doesn't go to court or anything, and you're working cooperatively with the 2 still remaining in. Would that work? I'm just brainstorming. What do you 2 think?
So basically what you're saying is you're going to just re-sign, do an addendum and bring the other 2 on as the sole. Is that what you just said? No,
because if the one guy in jail won't sign off of the lease, right. So you can't evict one person on a lease. It's all or none. So evict them all, but talk with the other 2 and say, okay, here's how we're going to get the other guy out. I'm evicting all of you, but I'm going to re-sign. Let's re-sign a lease today. Your eviction is for July 31st. Let's re-sign a lease to start with just the 2 of you and your new 3rd not in jail roommate for August 1st.
Yeah, sure. You're being proactive.
It's like a fresh restart, right? And that would be in the interest too, right? If he's concerned that 2 of the 3 landlords or 2 of the 3 tenants can't carry the rent, is very much in your best interest to help them out get at their roommate because, well, you want your bills paid. So if you can reset completely, end the original lease cleanly because it's in breach now, and then reset with the new one, I don't see why not. That would make a lot of sense. And your paperwork looks good too. It's not messy.
If you have to do an RTDRS hearing with someone in jail, go to the jail and serve them the papers because they're allowed the phone, and it's a legal process. They have to be given access to a phone. There's no reason for them not to be at the hearing. You've served them personally at the jail, or you serve their counselor or whatever the category is. You've served them. Take their name. Substitutional service. It's acceptable. It's at the same residence that he's at or she's at, and you have your hearing. If they're not there, boom, they're out.
And to add on this, and I'm just thinking now, this is a good point where you want to use the RTDRS over the courts because you can do a phone call hearing. So if they're in jail, you can basically fulfill the whole process and not get tied up. Or if you try to go through the court system, I believe it's still in person, right? The courts aren't doing phone calls.
Courts right now are
still closed, right?
Some of it is on the video. There's video there and video conferencing right now. Some court in some places, I believe, they are in person for some particular things, but the majority of it is video conferencing. And I know that because one of my tenants, again, this is a spousal family breakup. They actually held a family court. She was on her phone in her kitchen at court, and they held it there. So court's still going in its way.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And I guess the other thing too is you look at lead times. RTS is typically faster than the courts. So, I mean, if you're trying to get a renter in for within a month, again, that might be more the path you want to go down.
One thing you want to do too is Rob Bonin, you know him on our page as Rob Bow. He has a lot of success in the court system where he goes in and he'll have 2, 3, 4 hearings in a day, and he gets in fairly quickly. Once you're served, boom, you're in. But the courts are set up with video conferencing, so something to check. And I can't speak to this because I haven't seen it on that civil side, where I've only seen it on the criminal side. But there may be a process in place when you ask the clerks, can we do a teleconferencing where they bring them into the jail? They have a little room, they'll bring them in and they can stand right there and speak to the matter, and they're on the TV right in the courtroom with the judge. So just ask if that's possible, because it is in the criminal and the traffic end of things. It may still be available in the civil end of things too, because the system is set up and available. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll take us to the next question here. I got one. It's more about setting up your rental property with the right kind of stuff. So talk about window coverings, please. What do you use that is durable and super cost effective? What brand of new shades? There's a wasp that just flew by my face. Last time they immediately cracked, bent, and broken. So if you're in Calgary, I actually have a good reference I can give you. But beyond that, I don't even know the right word for them, but they're the plastic slates that have a drawstring. The plastic slates they look like wooden slats, but you can get them in plastic, and they're just, well, plastic is as durable as you can basically get. They're easy to clean, and they just roll up and down, and they're really, get them white. I think that's the most lowest cost option you can get.
Question for you two. Got a question for you. Are we required to provide window coverings?
I do, because I don't want tinfoil Union Jacks in the window.
Yeah. It's curb appeal right there, right? So
I helped manage a building where just as my beginning experiences as a landlord, and the owners were saying, no, we don't supply window coverings. Okay. And you tell people that, they go, okay, they'll buy them. Most of them leave them when they leave, but it is frustrating when you put in some decent window coverings, and all of a sudden they're busted when you go to leave. So
I have pet-friendly rentals, so almost all of my units have pets in them. So I put in the inexpensive horizontal, like aluminum blinds. Now that you just raise up and down with your hand, because they're phasing out all the ones with the drawstring because of strangulation issues for kids and such. I put those in. One, because they often get damaged by cats, dogs if the windows are low, And two, because if they're damaged and I replace them, and I do a lot of replacing of blinds in between tenants, they're not that expensive. So it gets charged back to the tenants because it's more than normal wear and tear when blinds get destroyed. But it's quick and inexpensive. So it's not a huge cost. Like, tenants don't lose their minds when they have $80 taken off of their security deposit to replace the blind that their cat destroyed by sitting in the window. So that's what I do. That works for my units. Keep in mind, I rent main floor suites and basement suites, so I don't have high-end, you know, big giant homes.
Yeah, entry level product, right? And I'm in the same category, and I'm just thinking. I rented last year. I moved to BC for a year, and then I came back. I ended up coming back early, and I saw a tent in my main floor. So I rented a brand new townhouse in Airdrie. It was, at that time, it was ran by the Strategic Property Group, and that's the exact same product that Sandy's mentioning is what they had in their units. So I have the. I don't know if they are more expensive, to be honest. I got a really good deal through a contractor that I know personally, so I might have the family friend discount. But I don't know how to describe them. They look like they're wooden. They're like big slate slats, and they're maybe 2 inches at most, and then they're on a string. So I haven't had any problems.
So it's not metal then. Yours are like that sort of plastic that looks like wood.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be interested in your contact to look into it, MacKenzie. Maybe we can chat about that after. But I also have a friend who gets curtains made. She's got a Filipino connection, so she gets curtains made in the Philippines.
Oh, cool.
Huge amounts, and then brings them over. And she puts curtains in all of her places. They're the same in all of her units. That works for her. It's not my choice, but that's what she does. Okay,
good to know. Yeah. I'll let you know.
What about the roll blinds?
They're more expensive. They're more expensive.
Those ones where you pull down, they go back. Yeah.
Yeah, where they're on like a blackout almost, right? Because it's like a vinyl kind of.
I just remember as a kid, I used to pull them down, and let them go, and they go.
Oh, yeah, no, the ones I have are on strings, but I'm thinking of nice movie theater there. Do we got time for? We can probably get 2 more questions in here.
Okay.
Cool. I don't have one lined up. Does anyone have one lined up?
I have a question that just got posted to the page. Would you like me to throw that out there?
Sure. And then I see one question in the live feed again from FST. And then we can wrap up with that. Well, that'll be our 2 last questions.
What's the one? Oh, the noise?
Yeah, the noise one. Do you want to know that one?
You know what I would tell FST how to address the noises is, did our last show address that?
We talked about one of the live shows.
Not Bill, yeah. Let's do that quickly, and then I invited this lady to come watch our show. So let's see if she gets on. I'll watch for her to join, and you answer that question. Okay.
So my take with the noise complaints is documentation. If you're getting complaints from someone, and all my properties are suited, so I can go to all the other tenants and get that feedback. But if you're gonna have to make any decision or enforce an action, you got to have a paper trail. So you can't really make a decision right off the bat, other than having a conversation, just saying, hey, like, this is what I'm hearing. You know, what's your take on it? And I usually try to get all the different viewpoints, because I want to make sure it's kind of tough too, because you want to make sure you get the full story before you make a decision. Sandy, how do you handle your noise complaints? I haven't actually got any, to be honest, so I'm a little struggling with this one.
Okay, I have. So, okay. One thing to consider, if you're legalizing your suites and you're taking out drop-down ceilings, always take the opportunity to soundproof, put insulation in, sound bar. That's a great investment. We set up our tenants with a we call it a shared responsibility agreement between the 2 suites as soon as they move in, because I have up and downs too, and we introduce them. We have them meet and have tea or coffee or talk far away right now with each other and talk about those sorts of things. And when we're signing the lease, we tell our tenants, you're living in a shared home. So if there's issues, the first thing I want you to do is talk to your neighbor. You want a good relationship with your neighbor. So if we get a call about a noise complaint, the first thing we're going to ask is, have you talked to John upstairs? Yeah. You really don't want me to step in unless you've talked with them, because that relationship will never be the same. So it's kind of like, you know, when the teacher calls the principal before even or when the parent calls the principal before even talking to the teacher.
Yeah.
So we send our tenants back to talk with each other first. And then, you know, it can escalate to us talking to John and saying, hey, John, things are too noisy. It can go to warning letters. What we have done in really bad situations is 2 of us have gone and sat down with the upstairs and the downstairs tenants, and we've mediated. Okay, so what are the problems? What are the possible solutions? What are you both agreeing to? And one of us is doing the talking and the other one's doing all the writing, and we write it all out. And at the end of the meeting, we sign that agreement. So
Right.
That's worst case scenario, but I hate it when it gets to that, because then you feel like a parent and not a landlord.
Yeah, that is pretty extreme. And now you got me thinking too. I should say I actually have had some sound complaints. Now when I think about it, it's just and what I did, and I did the same thing you did, is I went back and said, well, what have you done so far? Have you had? Because how can someone fix a situation they don't even know about it? So you got to have a conversation between the 2 parties. And again, I try to remove myself from that process, because it's always messy when you bring in a 3rd party to mediate. It just solve it one-on-one.
It doesn't go well after that.
No.
Right? Like often you're setting it up so that one tenant's going to be leaving.
Pretty much, yeah.
You want to put that? I posted that question, MacKenzie, from the page right on. I put it under my name, so if you want to bring it up.
Cool. Yeah, I see it there. Any thoughts on how you deal with noise complaints, Chris? I'd like to get your take on that. The policing background. How do you handle that?
I walk down there and I tell them, look, you guys.
Yeah.
No, you guys are good. You guys are good. I have a different way of handling it. No, I'm just kidding around a bit. So
okay, cool.
We can beat that topic to death.
Oh, we lose Fanny in this question, but she's still here. So let me just catch up here. Hi everyone. Would just like your opinions on this situation. My rental suite is in Canmore, and I have a potential tenant that used to be an engineer for oil and gas, but has been laid off, and says he recently sold his house and will be living off his savings for the duration of at least 12 months. He's offered to pay in advance. Is this something I should do? Would doing a credit check help me? I've never rented someone without a steady income. Also, a great question, actually.
You want to drop it so we can see Sandy?
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, bring it back. So I definitely, again, always do credit checks. Again, that shows their history of how they manage their finances. In this situation, if they've recently sold their house, you should ask for that contract or some proof that they've sold it, or maybe a copy of their bank statement showing that they have a large sum of money in their account. You got to see that they have this cash. It can't just be hearsay. So I would go after documentation in conjunction with a good credit check, and if the fact they want to pay you up front, and you've done, again, and we've had this conversation on the page too, difference between a drug op or someone in the drugs or into drug trafficking trying to pay you a bunch of money so you don't look at them. You got, when there's lots of money being offered up front, you got to dig further just so you know it's not going sideways. I mean, there are people like this that don't want to manage their money on a monthly basis. They'd be happy to pay 12 months of rent up front, and then they just live carefree and they can focus on other things. But you want to make sure it's for the right reasons.
Well, and if it is for the right reasons, then this guy, this engineer, may realize that because he's unemployed right now, he doesn't look really strong. So he may be trying to strengthen his application. So credit check, no brainer, always, because then you can see past history. So, and I think you've hit on this, MacKenzie. Find out, why did you sell the house? Was it because he lost his job and now think he's really in some trouble here? And what are his expenses? Did he just go through a divorce and now he's strapped for cash? So I'm assuming it's a male again. That's really wrong of me, but this person. So find out what's why did they sell? And you hit on it too. If they say that they're living off a bunch of savings, ask for proof. You're looking for stability. So how long did they live in the house that they sold? Why did they sell it? And do they have a bunch of cash socked away?
Yeah. and I want to add on to that while it's top of my head saying a good point is why do they sell it? And you want to make sure they're not in a heap of debt. A bit of a sanity check, and this is where SingleKey is really good, is you get to see every financial product on that credit score. Neighborly, they're good too, but they only give you like a one-page summary, so you don't see any details in the different line items. But if you run the SingleKey report and you see that they have a maybe they have a $200,000 HELOC or line of credit that is almost maxed out, and they have $900 or $1,000 of interest carrying costs every month. Well, that's a red flag, and that goes into why are they selling this house? Can they pay that off? Again, you just want a complete picture of their financial situation, so you know that they have the ability to pay your bills.
One thing too is like they says they want to prepay it. Like, how much does he want to prepay it? That's
Was that on the post, Chris? I didn't.
Yeah, it said offered to pay in advance. So he wanted to prepay it. So again, where is that money coming from?
Yeah.
I don't. Short version here. We just evicted somebody for another landlord here in town. They were $3,500 behind. The guy got kicked out of his business, and he rented a new place in town. Paid the new landlord 2 months in advance plus a damage deposit, but couldn't pay his rent at his house or couldn't pay the other. So where's that money coming from? That's
no way.
Yeah, interesting, eh?
Yeah.
So paying in advance is a good thing, but it's a huge flag. Why? Where's the money coming from, and who would ever pay in advance? Here's the thing, though. Had one on our page about paying in advance. The guy said, "I want to pay you a year in advance, but I want you to knock $100 a month off the rent." So if you think about it, say it's $1,200 a month. That's $14,400 for the year. If you knock $1,200 off of that, you can't invest $14,400 and make a $1,200 off of it in a year. So you know what? It's actually a good business thing. He just made $1,200 on his money. So if you look at it from that perspective, it's a great little investment for the renter. He just made $1,200.
Yeah.
So there's some strategies to prepaying too.
Yeah, and you know what? If you're a new landlord just starting out, you don't have these huge cash reserves, and you get $12,000 or $14,000 up front, and you give this person a $100 discount back. Maybe you can do a couple of repairs to make that property nicer at that point in time. So pros and cons to all of it. Again, you want to know where the money's coming from and why they're doing it. But if you get past that point, I would happily take 12 months of rent up front if it's legit. I would not say no to that. That's me, though.
I would want to know, in normal situations, when we don't have a pandemic, we're into our properties quite often for inspections. Not annoyingly slow, but a couple of times a year where we do full maintenance inspections and we check for everything. And then we also change batteries in the smoke alarms, the backup batteries, and the furnace filters, and all of those things, turn the water off in the spring and on the fall. So that looks like a real service to our tenants, but we want eyes on the property. If you have someone who has to pay you in advance and you can't go into their house right now to check what's going on, it would make me a little more worried. So under normal times, if I'm still going to go into the house as much as I normally would, and I would still have eyes on the property. But right now it's not normal.
Yeah.
I want to throw my other old retired hat on here. If somebody hands you cash for $14,400, there's money laundering issues there, because any of the bankers that are on our page, I'm sure you can jump in and answer. You can't just walk in with 12 grand and go, here you go. They want to know where it comes from. It has to be there is going to be some questions asked of you, unless you're going to take it in little bits. Don't walk in the bank with $14,000. You better show that you sold a car, a quad, something significant to come up with that money, because there's a flags that go up.
Yeah, a recent bill sale. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Cool. Well, I thought we were going to do a shorter show because it was middle of summer. I don't know how much you guys stayed on, but we've had over basically a dozen the entire time. So thank you guys for hanging out, guys and gals. It's been phenomenal. Sandy, as always, thank you for coming again on the show. I always appreciate your feedback.
Thanks for having me.
Here's your plug. Talk about what you're doing. Yeah. Yeah. So, Sandy, take a moment and share something that's important to you, or recent business adventure. As always, what's something you want to share back with the group?
Well, I not too long ago got my real estate license. So if there are investors out there who are looking for properties and would like a realtor who is very invested minded, then let me know. To be upfront, I did not get my license to go out and be a full-time realtor. I have been writing my own offers for years, and so I thought, let's just get my license and have the full control myself. But I'm very interested to work with investors because that's what I'm passionate about. So if there's someone out there who's wanting a realtor with an investment focus, and I shoot straight from the hip. So I'm very free with my advice, whether you like it or not. So you will get exactly what I think and do what you like with it. But I'd love to work with someone who's looking to build their portfolio.
Perfect. Awesome. That's great news. Chris, anything you want to wrap up with?
Oh, my passion remains here. It's exciting to the knowledge that we get just by answering these questions and building from the questions and empower us with knowledge. And I hope that's what we're doing for you all on the page. We are partnering regularly with new people. We're bringing stuff out. I do want to plug SingleKey. I think Viller and the gang are awesome. They're giving. Our community is changing their business. So you need to realize the power you have as this group, how they're making changes, right? So they're delivering a product to you, the consumer, on this page. You know what? I can't express enough how much we appreciate them jumping on the bandwagon with us. And we have some more stuff coming down the pipe for you guys. So stay tuned, watch closely. If you're looking for help, ask us.
Yeah, you bet. Awesome. I'm going to wrap it up here because my headset's dying, so I don't want to get cut off before the end of the show. But guys, thank you very much for joining us. Keep asking questions. Pop them in the group. We're a very active community, and really, it's landlords helping landlords, and that's the best part about what we've got going here. So thank you for your time. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks,
Bye, everybody.
Stay well.